The mining drill bit through the hard rock of Kepler 442b, with a grinding sound that echoed through the deep cave. Captain Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his face as he watched the operation. The air was thick and hot, even with the cooling systems. Running at full power? He'd been leading mining teams for 12 years, but this planet was different. The rocks here were harder than anything he had worked with before. "Captain, we're hitting something strange down here," called out Lisa Parker from her position near the scanner equipment. She was the team's geologist, a woman who could read rock formations like other people read books. Her scanner was beeping. In a pattern Jake had never heard before, Jake walked over to where Lisa was kneeling beside her equipment. The scanner screen showed lines and shapes that did not look like normal rock formations. "What are you seeing?" he asked. "Dull, Captain. Lots of it. And it's arranged in patterns that don't make sense for natural formation," Lisa pointed. "To the screen? Look at these readings. Whatever's down there is huge, and it's been there for a very long time." The mining operation was a joint effort between humans and 2 alien species. The Zephyrians were tall, thin beings with 4 arms and large eyes that could see things humans could not. They were excellent engineers and scientists. The Korthoks were shorter, but much stronger than humans, with thick skin and powerful muscles that made them perfect for heavy work. The 3 species had been working together for 5 years now, sharing the costs and profits of mining operations across this part of the galaxy. Commander Vexstar of the Zephyrian team approached them. His 4 arms moved in complex patterns. As he spoke, which was how his people showed excitement, "The readings are most unusual, Captain Morrison. My equipment also detects large metallic structures beneath the surface. The metal composition is unknown to our databases." General Throck, the leader of the Korthok workers, stomped over on his heavy feet. "If there's metal down there, we dig it up. Metal means profit." His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. Jake looked at the scanner readings again. The patterns were too regular to be natural, too complex to be simple or deposits. "Lisa, how deep do you think this goes?" "At least 200 meters down, maybe more. The structure extends beyond what my scanner can detect." She adjusted the settings on her equipment. "Captain, I think we need to be very careful here. These readings suggest something that was built, not something that formed naturally." The next 3 days were spent carefully excavating the site. The Zephyrians used their precise engineering tools to remove rock without damaging whatever lay beneath. The Korthoks provided the muscle power needed to move the heavy stones and debris. The humans managed the operation and made sure everyone worked together safely. As they dug deeper, the metal structures became more visible. The surface was smooth and dark, with a shine that did not match any known materials. Jake ran his hand along the exposed metal surface. It was neither warm nor cold, but seemed to match the temperature of his skin perfectly. Captain called Ray Collins, the team's chief engineer. "Come look at this." Ray was standing beside what looked like a seam in the metal surface. It was perfectly straight and ran in a line that suggested it might be some kind of door or hatch. Jake walked over and examined the seam. It was barely visible, just a thin line in the otherwise smooth surface. "What do you think, Ray?" "I think this is a spacecraft, Captain. A very old one." Ray pointed to the curved sections of metal that were now visible. "Look at the way these pieces fit together. This isn't just a building or a piece of machinery. This is a ship." Commander Vexstar was already running his scanning equipment over the exposed surfaces. "The metal is unlike anything in our technological databases. Construction methods are also unknown. This vessel, if that is what it is, was built using techniques that our 3 species have never seen before." General Throck was less interested in the technical details. "Can we get inside? If this is a ship, there might be valuable technology inside." Over the next 2 days, they uncovered more of the ship. It was massive, easily 3 times larger than the biggest human transport ships. The hull was covered in smooth plates that fit together with impossible precision. There were no visible bolts, welds, or joints anywhere on the surface. Jake's team tried everything they could think of to open the ship. The Zephyrians used their most advanced scanning technology to look for hidden panels or controls? Korthoks applied their strength to try to force open any sections that looked like they might be doors. The humans tried cutting tools, electromagnetic pulses, and even simple knocking to see if anything would respond. Nothing worked. The ship remained sealed and silent. Dr. Amy Foster, the team's expert on alien cultures and archaeology, spent hours studying the ship's surface. "Captain, I don't see any writing or symbols anywhere on this hull. Most spacecraft have some kind of identification or decorative elements, but this one is completely blank." "Maybe the writing is somewhere we haven't uncovered yet," Jake suggested. "Maybe, but I'm starting to think this ship is older than any civilization we know about. The metal hasn't corroded at all, even though it's been buried for what must be millions of years." Jake was frustrated. They had found what might be the most important archaeological discovery in galactic history, and they could not even get inside to look around. He walked back to the section where Ray had first noticed the seam in the hull, without really thinking about it. He placed his hand flat against the smooth metal surface. The ship came alive. Lights appeared along the seam, glowing with a soft blue color. The metal surface became warm under Jake's hand. A low humming sound came from deep inside. The ship. It's like a giant machine waking up after a long sleep. Everyone on the excavation team stopped what they were doing and stared. The seam in the hull began to widen, revealing that it was indeed a doorway. The opening grew larger and larger until it was big enough for several people to walk through side by side. "Captain," whispered Lisa. "What did you do?" Jake looked at, his hand still pressed against the ship's hull. "I don't know. I just touched it." Commander Vexstar approached the opening with his scanner. The interior is filled with breathable atmosphere. The gravity inside appears to be adjusted to human normal levels. Temperature and humidity are also within human comfort ranges. "How is that possible?" asked Ray. "This ship has been buried for millions of years. How can it have life support systems that are perfectly adjusted for humans?" Jake stepped closer to the opening. The interior was lit with the same soft blue light that had appeared when the door opened. He could see a corridor that extended into the ship, with walls that were as smooth and unmarked as the exterior hull. "Only one way to find out," Jake said. He took a step forward into the ancient ship. The moment his foot touched the deck inside, the ship, more lights came on. The humming sound grew stronger, and Jake could feel a slight vibration through the floor. It felt like the ship's engines were starting up, even though it was still buried in the rock of Kepler 44b. "Captain," called Amy from behind him. "I think you should be very careful in there." Jake looked back at his team. The humans looked excited and curious. Zephyrians appeared nervous, their forearms moving in patterns that showed concern. The Korthoks were ready for action, their hands near their weapons. "Come on," Jake said. "Let's see what secrets this ship has been keeping." As the team entered the ancient vessel, none of them could have imagined that they were about to discover something that would change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. The ship that had waited millions of years for a human touch was finally ready to reveal its purpose. Jake Morrison stepped deeper into the ancient ship, and with each step he took, more lights came on along the corridor walls. The blue glow was soft and warm, not harsh like the emergency lighting on most human ships. The air smelled clean and fresh, as if the ship's life support systems had been running perfectly for all the millions of years it had been buried. Ray Collins followed close behind, his engineering scanner in his hands. "Captain, these readings don't make sense. Power systems in this ship are more advanced than anything we have. The energy output is incredible, but I can't figure out where it's coming from." Dr. Amy Foster was recording everything with her camera equipment. As the team's expert on alien cultures, she wanted to document every detail of their exploration. "The construction is amazing," she said, running her hand along the smooth wall. "There are no seams anywhere. It's like the entire corridor was carved from a single piece of metal." Commander Vexstar was having trouble with his scanning equipment. His forearms moved quickly as he tried to adjust the controls. "Captain Morrison, my instruments cannot identify the materials used in this ship's construction. The technology appears to be based on scientific principles that are unknown to Zephyrian science." General Throck was less interested in the technical details. The Korthok warrior kept his hand near his weapon as they walked deeper into the ship. "This place feels wrong," he growled. "Too quiet, too clean. Ships that have been dead for millions of years should not look like this." Led them to a large circular room with a high ceiling. In the center of the room stood a raised platform with what looked like a control console. The walls were covered with panels that might have been displays or information screens, but they were all dark and inactive. Lisa Parker checked her geological scanner. "Captain, we're now about 50 meters inside the ship. Based on the exterior measurements, we've barely entered the first section. This thing is huge." Jake approached the central platform. Like everything else in the ship, it was perfectly clean and unmarked by age. The control console was unlike anything he had seen before. Instead of buttons or switches, the surface was smooth and unmarked. "Ray, what do you think this is?" Ray climbed up onto the platform and examined the console. "It looks like some kind of command center, but I don't see any controls. Maybe it's voice activated?" He spoke loudly to the empty room. "Hello, computer?" "System activation." Nothing happened. The room remained silent except for the soft humming of the ship's power systems. Commander Vexstar tried speaking in his own language. Then in the common galactic trade language that most species used for communication. Still nothing happened. Jake placed his hand on the smooth surface of the console, just as he had done with the ship's hull outside. Immediately, the entire room came alive. The dark panels on the walls lit up with displays showing star charts, technical diagrams, and streams of text in a language none of them could read. The console under Jake's hand began to glow, and a holographic image appeared above it. The hologram was of a woman, clearly human, wearing clothes that looked both ancient and futuristic. Her face was kind but serious, and when she spoke, her voice filled the room with perfect clarity. "Welcome, child of Earth," the hologram said in clear English. "I am the keeper of the eternal voyage. This vessel is called the Ascendant Dawn, and it has waited long for your people to reach the stars." Jake stared at the hologram in shock. "You're human, but this ship is millions of years old." The keeper smiled. "I am a recording created by those who came before. Your ancestors, though they lived in a time so distant that your current civilization has no memory of them. We called ourselves the predecessors, and we traveled among the stars when your world was young." Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward, her camera recording everything. "This is incredible. You're saying that humans had space travel millions of years ago?" "Indeed," the keeper replied. "We built a great civilization among the stars. We explored distant galaxies and discovered the secrets of the universe. But in time, we learned that physical existence was only the beginning of what life could become." Ray Collins was staring at the technical displays on the walls. Even though he could not read the text, the diagrams were clear enough to show technology far beyond anything that existed in the current galaxy. "Captain, look at these engine designs. These power systems. If this technology is real, it's centuries ahead of anything we have." General Throck had moved closer to what appeared to be a weapons control station. The displays there showed diagrams of energy weapons and defensive systems. "These weapons could destroy entire fleets," he said quietly. "Commander." Vexstar was examining the star charts with growing amazement. "These maps show star systems that we have not yet discovered. The level of galactic exploration represented here exceeds the combined knowledge of all current civilizations." The keeper turned to address the entire group. "The Ascendant Dawn was left as a test and a gift for our descendants. Only humans can activate its systems because it recognizes the genetic patterns of our people. You, Jake Morrison, are the first of your generation to find us." Jake felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. "Why me? I'm just a mining captain. I'm not a scientist or a military leader." "The test is not about knowledge or rank," the keeper explained. "It is about character. The predecessors learned that great power requires great wisdom to use correctly. This ship will only serve those who prove themselves worthy of its gifts." Lisa Parker was studying the geological data displayed on one of the wall panels. "Keeper, how many ships like this one exist? The Ascendant Dawn is the first of many. Gifts we left behind. Across the galaxy, hidden on distant worlds, other vessels wait for the children of Earth to find them. Each one contains knowledge and technology that will help humanity take its place among the stars. Dr. Amy Foster asked the question that everyone was thinking. What happened to the predecessors? Where did they go? The Keeper's expression became distant and peaceful. We transcended physical form. We became something greater than flesh and metal and stone. But we did not forget our origins. These ships and their contents are a way of helping our descendants follow the same path we once walked. General Throck stepped forward aggressively. If these weapons exist, then the Korthok empires should have access to them. Such power could bring peace to the galaxy through strength. The Keeper looked at the Korthok general with disappointment. The weapons of the Ascendant Dawn serve only the cause of protection, never conquest. They will not activate for those who seek power over others. Commander Vextar approached with more caution. The scientific knowledge contained in this vessel could benefit all species in the galaxy. Surely such gifts should be shared. Knowledge will be shared, the Keeper agreed. But only when it can be used wisely. The test of worthiness applies, not just to individuals, but to civilizations. Your people must prove they are ready for such responsibilities. Jake looked around at his mixed team of humans and aliens. What kind of test are you talking about? The Keeper's image became more solid and focused. You will face choices, Jake Morrison. Decisions that will show whether humanity has learned the lessons that the predecessors failed to learn in time. The power contained in this ship can uplift civilizations or destroy them. The choice will be yours to make. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the weight of the Keeper's words. They had come to this planet looking for valuable minerals. Instead, they had found technology that could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. And it would only work for humans. Ray Collins was the first to speak. Captain, we need to contact Earth immediately. The government needs to know about this. Amy Foster shook her head. If word of this gets out before we understand what we're dealing with, it could cause panic. Wars have been fought over much less than this. Commander Vextar and General Throck exchanged glances. Both aliens were clearly thinking about what this discovery would mean for their own people. Jake kept his hand on the console, feeling the warm pulse of the ship's systems. Keeper, how much time do we have before we need to make these choices you mentioned? Time moves differently for those who have transcended, the Keeper replied. But the galaxy around you will not wait. Even now, the signals from this ship's activation are spreading through space. Others will come seeking what you have found. As if summoned by her words, Lisa Parker's communication equipment began to beep with incoming messages. Ships were approaching the Kepler 442b system from multiple directions. The test was about to begin. The first ships arrived 3 days after the Ascendant Dawn had awakened. Jake Morrison stood at the ship's observation deck, watching through the transparent metal windows as vessel after vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel above. Kepler 442b. The planet's orbit was quickly becoming crowded with ships from every major power in the galaxy. Lisa Parker was monitoring the communication channels from her station inside the ancient ship. Captain, I'm counting at least 40 vessels out there. Zephyrian science ships, Korthok battle cruisers, and ships from species I don't even recognize. Ray Collins was working frantically to understand the ship's defensive systems. The Keeper had shown him how to access basic controls, but the technology was so advanced that he felt like a child trying to operate a Starship engine. Captain, this ship has weapons that could probably destroy half that fleet, but I have no idea how to use them. Dr. Amy Foster was documenting everything as the political situation grew more tense by the hour. The news of our discovery has spread across the entire galaxy. Every government wants to get their hands on this technology. Commander Vextar had received orders from his homeworld to secure access to the ship for the Zephyrian Science Council. He approached Jake with obvious reluctance. Captain Morrison, my government has instructed me to request immediate access to the vessel's scientific databases. They believe that such advanced knowledge should be shared with the most scientifically capable species in the galaxy. General Throck was under similar pressure from the Korthok High Command. My leaders demand that this ship be placed under joint military control. Technology this powerful is too dangerous to remain in the hands of any single species, especially one as young as humanity. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. 3 days ago, he had been a simple mining captain. Now he was at the center of a galactic crisis that could lead to war. I understand your positions, but the ship only responds to humans. Even if I wanted to share control, I don't think it's possible. The Keeper's holographic form appeared at the central console. Jake Morrison speaks the truth. The Ascendant Dawn will only serve those who carry the genetic markers of the predecessor line. However, its knowledge and capabilities can be shared with those who prove themselves worthy. New voice came over the communication system. Ascendant Dawn. This is Admiral Susan Blake of the Earth Colonial Defense Force. I am ordering you to prepare for inspection by Earth's military personnel. Jake recognized the name. Admiral Blake was one of the most respected officers in Earth's space fleet, but she was also known for her aggressive approach to defending human interests. Admiral, this is Captain Morrison. The situation here is more complicated than you might understand. Captain Morrison, you are ordered to secure that vessel and await our arrival. Earth has a right to technology created by our own ancestors. Within hours, Admiral Blake's flagship arrived with a full military escort. She came aboard the Ascendant Dawn with a team of specialists including Dr. Kate Bennett, an expert in ancient languages, and Commander Ron Price, a tactical analyst whose job was to evaluate the ship's military potential. Admiral Blake was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to take in every detail around her. She examined the ship's interior with obvious amazement, but her primary concern was strategic. Captain Morrison, this vessel represents the most significant advancement in human military capability in our history. It must be placed under proper military control immediately. Dr. Kate Bennett was more interested in the historical implications. She spent hours talking with the Keeper, learning about the predecessor civilization and their ultimate fate. Admiral, this isn't just about military technology. We're talking about contact with our own ancient past. The scientific and cultural value is beyond measure. Commander Ron Price was examining the weapons systems with growing excitement. Admiral, the defensive capabilities of this ship exceed anything in our current fleet. The energy shields alone could protect an entire planet from attack. The offensive weapons could level cities from orbit. Jake watched as more and more people tried to stake their claims to the ship. Outside, the number of vessels continued to grow. Diplomatic ships arrived carrying ambassadors from dozens of species. Trade representatives came hoping to negotiate for access to the technology. Even religious groups sent ships, believing that the discovery had spiritual significance. The Keeper observed everything with what seemed like sadness. This is how it began with the predecessors, she told Jake during a quiet moment. The discovery of great power led to competition and conflict instead of cooperation and wisdom. General Throck received new orders from his government that made the situation even more tense. Captain Morrison, the Korthok Empire, has declared this system to be under military protection. Any attempt to remove the ship or its technology will be considered an act of aggression. Commander Vexstar was dealing with similar pressure from his people. The Zephyrian High Council has voted to establish a permanent research station in this system. They will not allow such important scientific discoveries to be monopolized by any single species. The crisis deepened when pirates and mercenary groups began gathering at the edge of the star system.
Hey, these were not government forces,
but independent operators who hoped to steal pieces of the advanced technology for sale on the black market. Their presence made everyone nervous. As pirates were unpredictable and dangerous, Lisa Parker detected the first attack 3 days later. Captain, I'm reading multiple small craft approaching at high speed, not responding to communication attempts, and their weapons are powered up. The pirate attack came fast and hard. A dozen small ships swarmed toward the planet's surface, hoping to overwhelm the various military forces and grab whatever they could from the excavation site. The Korthok and Zephyrian fleets moved to intercept them, but the pirates were fast and desperate. Jake felt the Ascendant Dawn respond to the threat without his conscious command. The ship's defensive systems came online automatically, creating energy shields around the excavation site that blocked the pirates' weapons fire. Long-range sensors reached out across the star system, tracking every moving object with impossible accuracy. Captain Ray Collins called out from his station, "The ship is offering to activate its offensive weapons. It can target every pirate vessel from here." This was Jake's first real test. The keeper had warned him that he would face choices about how to use the ship's power. You could easily destroy the attacking pirates, which would solve the immediate problem, but would also demonstrate the ship's deadly capabilities to everyone watching. Instead, Jake chose a different path. He activated the ship's communication systems and spoke directly to the pirate ships. "This is Captain Morrison of the Ascendant Dawn. You are outgunned and outnumbered. Withdraw now, and no harm will come to you." The pirate leader responded with threats and demands, but Jake could see that the man was scared. The pirates had come expecting to fight mining equipment and lightly armed research vessels. They had not expected to face technology that was obviously far beyond anything they had ever seen. Jake made his decision. Instead of using weapons, he activated the ship's manufacturing systems. In minutes, the Ascendant Dawn produced medical supplies and emergency food rations. He broadcast these coordinates to all the ships in the system. "Any vessel in need of supplies or medical assistance is welcome to approach. We're here to help, not to harm." The pirates were confused by this response. Several of their ships had been damaged in the fighting with the Korthak fleet. They desperately needed medical supplies for their wounded. Slowly, carefully, they approached the coordinates Jake had provided. Admiral Blake was furious. "Captain Morrison, you had the opportunity to eliminate a threat, and you chose to help them instead. That's not how military operations work." Commander Vextar was more thoughtful. "The captain's choice shows wisdom. Violence would have escalated the situation and possibly led to larger conflicts." General Throck disagreed. "Mercy toward pirates only encourages more attacks. Strength is the only language such people understand." The keeper appeared at Jake's side. "You have made your first choice, Jake Morrison, the path of compassion over conquest. But greater tests lie ahead." As if to prove the keeper's words, Lisa Parker's scanners detected new ships entering the system. These were larger vessels, warships from major galactic powers who had decided that diplomacy was taking too long. The real test was about to begin. The large warships that entered the Kepler 442b system brought with them a new level of danger. Jake Morrison watched from the Ascendant Dawn's command center as 3 massive Korthak battlecruisers took positions around the planet. Each ship was the size of a small city and carried enough weapons to destroy everything on the surface. Admiral Susan Blake received a priority message from Earth that made her face go pale. She approached Jake with obvious reluctance. "Captain Morrison, I have new orders from the Colonial Defense Council. If we cannot secure this technology for Earth, we are to prevent any other species from obtaining it." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What exactly does that mean, Admiral?" "It means we destroy the ship rather than let it fall into alien hands." Blake's voice was steady, but Jake could see she did not like her orders. "The Council believes that this advance could be used to conquer humanity if our enemies get hold of it." Dr. Kate Bennett overheard the conversation and stepped forward. "Admiral, you can't be serious. This ship represents the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. Destroying it would be like burning down the Library of Alexandria." "Commander?" Ron Price supported the Admiral's position. "Dr. Bennett, we have to think strategically. If the Korthaks get this technology, they could use it to dominate the galaxy. Earth's security must come first." The keeper's holographic form appeared at the central console. Her expression was sad but not surprised, so it begins again. The same fears and suspicions that destroyed the predecessors. Jake turned to the ancient AI. "Keeper, you said this ship was a test. What kind of test are we talking about?" "The test of worthiness has many parts." Jake Morrison. "Each choice you make reveals whether humanity is ready for the responsibilities that come with great power." Oh. The keeper gestured to the displays around them. "Your ancestors, the predecessors, faced similar choices long ago. They chose badly." Dr. Amy Foster had been studying the historical records that the Keeper had shared with them. What happened to the predecessors? How did they fail their test? The Keeper's image flickered as if she was accessing deep memories. They discovered technology like this and used it to dominate other species instead of helping them. They became conquerors instead of guardians. In the end, their empire collapsed because they had made enemies of everyone around them. General Throck received his own new orders from the Korthok High Command. He approached Jake with his usual directness. Captain Morrison, my government has authorized me to take this ship by force if necessary. The Korthok Empire will not allow humans to monopolize such powerful weapons. Commander Vexstar was in a similar position with his people. The Zephyrian Council has declared that the scientific knowledge in this vessel is too important to remain. Under the control of any single species, they have authorized military action to secure it. Jake realized that the situation was spiraling toward violence. 3 different species were preparing to fight over the Ascendant Dawn, and each believed they had the right to its technology. This is exactly what the Keeper warned us about. We're repeating the same mistakes that destroyed the predecessors. The first test came when the ship's systems offered Jake a simple solution. The Keeper showed him how to activate weapons that could disable every ship in the system without destroying them. You could end this conflict quickly, she explained. The other species would have no choice but to accept human control of the technology. Jake stared at the weapon controls. It would be so easy to solve all their problems with the touch of a button, but he remembered the Keeper's warnings about the path of domination. What would happen if I used these weapons? You would win this battle, the Keeper replied. But you would also prove that humanity is not ready for the responsibilities of advanced technology. Other ships would only activate for species that show wisdom and restraint. Lisa Parker was monitoring communications from the various fleets. Captain, the situation is getting worse. The Korthiks are demanding that we surrender the ship within the next 6 hours. Zephyrians are threatening to use their disruptor weapons to disable our defenses. And Admiral Blake is talking about activating Earth's new plasma torpedoes. Ray Collins was working desperately to understand more of the ship's systems. Captain, I've found something interesting in the manufacturing bay. This ship can create almost anything we need. Food, medicine, even advanced technology that could help other species. The second test came when Jake discovered that the ship could produce technology that would make Earth the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Advanced weapons, faster than light engines, medical equipment that could cure any disease. All he had to do was give the command. The temptation of power, the Keeper observed. This is where many failed the test, the ability to help your own people at the expense of others. Dr. Amy Foster had been studying the records of other species that had found predecessor technology. Keeper, have other civilizations found ships like this one? Many have found predecessor artifacts over the millions of years since we transcended. Most have failed the test. They used what they found to gain advantage over their neighbors instead of helping them grow. Jake felt the weight of decision pressing down on him. He could make humanity the dominant power in the galaxy. He could ensure that Earth would never again face threats from alien civilizations. All it would cost was his species' moral integrity. The crisis reached its peak when mercenary forces launched a surprise attack on the planet's surface. These were not the same pirates from before, but professional soldiers hired by unknown clients to capture. Jake enforced him to activate the ship's systems for their benefit. The attack came from multiple directions at once. Armed shuttles landed near the excavation site, while fighter craft engaged the orbital fleets. The mercenaries used advanced stealth technology that made them difficult to detect until they were already on the ground. Jake watched the battle unfold on the ship's sensors. The mercenaries were well-equipped and highly trained. They fought with the precision of elite military units, using weapons and tactics that suggested they had significant financial backing. Admiral Blake immediately moved to defend the site with her Marines, but she was outnumbered. General Throke's forces joined the fight, as did Commander Vexstar's security teams. For the first time since the discovery, 3 species were working together instead of against each other. But the mercenaries had planned for this. They used weapons specifically designed to disable the equipment and vehicles of all three species. Within minutes, the defending forces were pinned down and taking heavy casualties. The Ascendant, Dawn's defensive systems, offered Jake the ultimate test. The ship could activate weapons powerful enough to eliminate every mercenary on the planet's surface. The targeting system was so precise that it could kill attackers without harming any of the defenders. "This is your final choice," the Keeper said solemnly. "You can use our weapons to protect your people and your allies. No one would question such a decision. The mercenaries are clearly the aggressors." Jake stared at the weapon controls. Every instinct told him to protect his friends and allies. Admiral Blake was down there fighting for her life. So were Commander Vexstar and General Throck, despite their disagreements about the ship. But Jake remembered everything the Keeper had taught him about the predecessors. They had started with good intentions too. Had used their advanced technology to protect themselves and their allies. But each use of force had made the next one easier to justify. Instead of activating weapons, Jake chose a different path. He opened communication channels to every ship in the system and made an offer that surprised everyone. "This is Captain Morrison. The Ascendant Dawn's medical systems can heal any wounded person, regardless of species. Our manufacturing systems can provide supplies and equipment to anyone who needs them. I'm offering these services freely to all ships in the system, including the mercenary forces." The fighting on the surface slowed as Jake's words spread across the communication networks. The mercenaries had expected violence and conquest. They had not expected an offer of help. Jake continued his broadcast. "The technology in this ship was created to help people, not to harm them. I choose to use it for healing instead of killing." The Keeper smiled for the first time since Jake had met her. "You have passed the test, Jake Morrison. You have chosen the path of wisdom over the path of power." The ancient ship began to change around them as new systems came online. But more importantly, Jake's choice sent a signal across the galaxy that would change everything. Jake Morrison's choice to heal instead of harm sent a signal across the galaxy that changed everything. As the Ascendant Dawn's medical systems worked to treat wounded mercenaries, soldiers and civilians alike, something extraordinary began to happen on distant worlds. The Keeper's image became brighter and more solid than Jake had ever seen her. "Your decision has awakened the network, Jake Morrison. Our predecessors left many gifts hidden throughout the galaxy, each waiting for a worthy guardian to claim them." Lisa Parker was monitoring communication channels when the first reports began to arrive. "Captain, I'm receiving messages from across the galaxy. Ships are activating on dozens of worlds. Ancient vessels that have been buried or hidden for millions of years are coming to life." Ray Collins was amazed by what the ship's sensors were showing him. "Captain, look at this. There are energy signatures appearing in star systems hundreds of light years away. Whatever you did, it triggered a galaxy-wide response." Dr. Amy Foster was recording everything as reports flooded in from every corner of known space. "This is incredible. The Zephyrian research team just found an active ship on their homeworld. Korthak mining crews have discovered vessels on 3 different planets. Even species we've never heard of are reporting similar discoveries." The mercenary attack on the surface had stopped completely. The soldiers who had come to capture Jake and steal the ship's technology were now receiving medical treatment from the very vessel they had tried to take by force. Many of them were badly wounded, and the Ascendant Dawn's healing systems were saving their lives. Commander Vexstar received an urgent message from his homeworld that made his forearms tremble. With excitement, "Captain Morrison, a ship has activated in the capital city of Zephoria Prime, but it will only respond to me personally. The vessel is requesting that I return home immediately." General Throck got similar news from the Kordak Empire. "One of our deep space mining operations has uncovered an ancient vessel. The ship's systems came online when I made my choice to help defend this site instead of trying to take it by force." Admiral Blake was confused by the reports coming from Earth. "Captain Morrison, there are 3 separate locations on Earth where buried structures have suddenly become active, but they're not responding to our military teams. They seem to be waiting for specific individuals." The Keeper explained what was happening. Each species in the galaxy has been tested through their representatives here. Your choices and theirs have determined whether your civilizations are ready for the next phase of development. Jake looked around at the mixed group of humans and aliens who had worked together during the crisis. What kind of development are you talking about? The predecessors prepared for this moment, the Keeper replied. When worthy guardians emerged from each species, the network would activate. Ancient ships, hidden knowledge, and advanced technology would become available to those who proved they could use such gifts wisely. Dr. Kate Bennett had been studying the ship's historical records. Keeper, how many times has this happened? Before, how many civilizations have passed these tests? Few have succeeded, the Keeper admitted. Most species fail because they cannot overcome their fears and suspicions of other species. They see advanced technology as a way to gain advantage over their neighbors, instead of a responsibility to help all life flourish. The transformation began immediately. On Zephyria Prime, Commander Vexstar found himself in control of a ship that contained scientific knowledge beyond his people's wildest dreams. But the vessel would only share that knowledge if he agreed to make it available to other species as well, in the Korthok Empire. General Throck discovered that his inherited ship contained defensive technologies that could protect entire star systems from attack. But the weapons would only activate to defend others, never to conquer or dominate. On Earth, 3 different people found themselves chosen as guardians of predecessor technology. A doctor in Africa gained access to medical knowledge that could cure diseases affecting multiple species. An engineer in South America inherited manufacturing systems that could produce anything needed by developing civilizations. A teacher in Asia was given educational programs that could help any species reach its full potential. Jake realized that the test had never been about individual worthiness alone. It had been about whether different species could learn to work together despite their differences. The real test was cooperation, wasn't it? You needed to see if we could move beyond fear and suspicion. Exactly, the Keeper confirmed. The predecessors failed because they tried to use their gifts alone. They became isolated and eventually turned their technology against each other. You have chosen a different path. The galaxy began to change rapidly as the network of predecessor ships shared their knowledge and resources. Scientific discoveries that might have taken centuries were accomplished in months. Medical treatments that could help any species were developed and distributed freely. Defensive technologies protected peaceful worlds from aggressive neighbors. Lisa Parker found herself working with researchers from dozens of species as they explored the deepest mysteries of the universe. Captain, the level of cooperation we're seeing is unprecedented. Species that have been enemies for centuries are now sharing research and resources. Ray Collins was part of a joint engineering project that included the best minds from every major civilization. The technology we're developing together is beyond anything any single species could have created alone. We're literally building the future of galactic civilization. But the New Age was not without its challenges. Some groups within each species opposed the sharing of advanced technology. They wanted to keep the predecessor gifts for themselves and use them to gain advantage over their traditional enemies. On Earth, military leaders argued that humanity should not share its inherited technology with potential rivals. In the Korthok, Empire warriors claimed that their defensive systems should be used to expand their territory. Among the Zephyrians, some scientists wanted to hoard their new knowledge instead of teaching it to other species. Jake found himself at the center of these debates. As the first guardian to be chosen by the predecessor network, the Keeper warned us about this. The temptation to use power for selfish purposes never goes away. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amy Foster proposed the creation of the Galactic Council of Guardians, where representatives from each species would work together to ensure that predecessor technology was used responsibly. The Council's first meeting was held aboard the Ascendant Dawn, Jake serving as the temporary chairman until permanent. Structures could be established. Representatives from dozens of species attended, including many who had never worked together before. Commander Vexstar spoke for the scientific community. We propose that all research be conducted jointly, with discoveries shared freely among all species. No single civilization should have advantages that others lack. General Throck represented the military perspective. Defensive technologies should be available to any species that faces aggression, but weapons of conquest should be forbidden to all.
Admiral Blake
Agreed to represent Earth's interests while ensuring that humanity's gifts were used for the benefit of all. We've learned that true security comes from cooperation, not domination. The Keeper observed the proceedings with satisfaction. You have succeeded where the predecessors failed. You have chosen to build bridges instead of walls. As the months passed, the galaxy transformed into something unprecedented in its history. Wars that had lasted for generations ended as species found better ways to resolve their differences. Poverty and disease became problems of the past as advanced technology was shared freely. Scientific exploration reached new heights as different forms of intelligence worked together to understand the universe. Jake Morrison, who had started as a simple mining captain, found himself serving as the first Director General of the Galactic Council of Guardians. But he never forgot the lesson that the Keeper had taught him. True power lay not in domination, but in the wisdom to lift others up. The ancient starship that had obeyed only a human had indeed changed the galaxy, but not because it gave humanity power over other species. Instead, it had shown all civilizations that their greatest strength came from working together toward common goals. The predecessors had left one final message in the deepest files of their network. To those who come after us, remember that the greatest achievements of any civilization are not the technologies they create, but the wisdom they show and how they use them. Build well, and perhaps one day you too will transcend the limitations of physical existence and leave gifts for those who follow. The galaxy was ready for whatever challenges the future might bring, because its people had learned the most important lesson of all, that unity was stronger than division and cooperation was more powerful than conquest.